long as we have faith in our cause
I'm Mike.
and unconquerable willpower,
I'm Dave.
salvation will not be denied us.
And this is Between the Lines.
Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Is it easier for you to go and buy things in a store than it was 4 years ago?
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
And we're back.
Happy 4th of... Oh, wait.
Wait a second.
Hold on a minute.
Wait. No.
Did we fast forward?
Yeah, we missed a holiday.
Happy July 9th.
Yay! It's officially July 9th day.
Woohoo! It's what happened on July 9th?
Probably lots of things.
Yes.
Over the years.
Are we talking about this year? Well,
Probably lots of things over the years happened. On
yeah,
July
so
9th.
happy July 9th, the 5 days after July 4th.
Sure. I mean,
Yay.
it's a day.
So I had fun firing off fireworks last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt a couple fling by the back of my head. So we didn't do anything crazy this year, but we just set up a couple smaller ones, and we didn't have them weighted down properly.
Oh yeah.
So
I've been there.
When they get to shooting, especially those ones that've got like 49
Oh, yeah.
shots that they fire off
Yep.
in sequence.
When they tip over.
It's
fun.
time to run.
Yeah, we had we used to do fireworks in our backyard because we're rednecks. But we used to do the big mortars and stuff in our backyard, and one time one of the mortars tipped over
Oh,
in
no.
the middle of a round, and it was shooting mortars at everybody that was sitting there watching fireworks. So we had people dodging mortar fire in the middle of a July 4th party.
That's what it means to be American.
That's American
to have
right
gunshots and mortar shells flying
Yep,
your way in
that's
the
right.
middle of a barbecue.
You've never been to an actual independence party until you're dodging mortar fire.
When we say we're gonna light this bitch up, we
Yeah,
literally
we
mean
mean it.
we're gonna
We
light
mean it. Yeah, there's no hyperbole there. So last episode we talked about the elephant in the room, the Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
And the landmark decision that they overturned Roe, which is a pretty big deal. So you go back and watch that episode. Before that, we talked a little bit about one of the most important amendments, the Third Amendment.
Yeah. Everybody's forgotten it by now.
Yeah, everybody's already forgotten the Third Amendment already. We're gonna go into the Fourth and Fifth Amendments, but we figured we'd save that.
Yeah.
And maybe just kind of have a whatever palate cleanser kind of.
It's a pretty
podcast.
important amendment, so I think we need to
Kind of
spend-
give it the respect it deserves, so to speak.
Speaking of Roe versus Wade, there was actually a news story in Texas about a woman that got pulled over, and she was pregnant, and the officer gave her a $250 driving ticket for driving in the carpool lane, and she looked at him and it's like, well, there's two people here.
Yeah.
So the judge didn't weigh in on the whole situation with regards to her complaint, but he just basically said it's like, well, they pull you over because they only saw one person in the driving lane, or in the driver's seat, so that's
Sure.
why that happened. So
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's an argument.
It is an argument. I don't know if it's,
It's an argument. Well, I mean, the point I've always made, not to go down this rabbit hole again, but if you were to murder a pregnant woman, they would charge you with 2 counts of murder. So therefore, the law does see that as another person at some point. So I mean,
I wouldn't have a problem with them amending traffic laws to allow, pregnant women to be able to drive in carpool lanes for safety reasons. You know, if they feel like they're safer driving in.
Well, statistically, the carpool lanes are the safer. The faster, the highways with faster speed limits, statistically, are safer. Now they do have more fatal crashes.
Yeah.
Because, when you're going that fast, if you do crash, it tends to be a worse crash, but there's less crashes.
Well, it's like the Autobahn in Germany.
Yes. Yep.
What is it? It's an unrestricted speed
They have
limit.
no speed limit.
But I think they have lanes. Like there's lanes that you can drive in if you want to do like a lower, lower range or whatever.
Yep. And it's kind of like the way we do ours is I think they even drive on the right side of the road like we do in Germany.
Yeah, a lot of.
I think
there's quite a few European countries that do.
And I think that it's the same way that we have it here, where you're the first lane in the right side of the road is your slowest lane, and then then you have your passing lane, and then there's the just do whatever the hell you want lane.
Yeah.
I think that's how it goes. Anybody from Germany, call in.
Yeah.
Let us know. But you can find us on Facebook at PA Between the Lines. You can find us on Twitter at the BTL Podcast. And you can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever podcasts are found. So go ahead and check out some of our old stuff at the same time.
So we have a funny bit of news. Well, it's kind of funny, kind of not. Well, one, I guess, which part do we want to talk about first? Do we want to talk about him selling oil or...
Well, there's so many things.
Yes.
With President Sippy Cup that you can talk about that I really don't know where to start. I mean, we could start with the latest of the gaffes if that's where you want to start at.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So we'll pull this up here with us in the view. So this was just the other day. Joe Biden was giving a speech, and just give credit to the channel that we're playing this off of. This is from Hindustan Times. Oh, a local. A local paper. Hey, give him some love.
Hindustan Times.
Hindustan Times, right there it is.
Is his name Hindustan?
It could be. They have 4.49 million subscribers, so they're obviously.
Well, it's not a capital S, so I don't know if it's a first name.
I mean, that's fair. But anyway, Biden was talking about some stuff, so I'll just go ahead and play this, and you guys out there, you can be the judge on whether this was written into the speech or if this was a gaffe.
Majority writes, and I quote, "Women." It's a quote now from the majority. "Women are not without electoral or political power. It is noteworthy that the percentage of women who register to vote and cast a ballot is consistently higher than the percentage of the men who do so." End of quote. Repeat the line.
What if he had double exclamation points or triple exclamation?
Repeat the line!
Repeat the line!
Who put a question mark on the teleprompter?
Repeat the line?
I'm gonna repeat the line.
Higher than the percentage of the men who do so. End of quote. Repeat the line.
You know, it reminds me of that stupid news article where the guy messed with the teleprompter and they were talking about the Asian plane crash, and it was like, and we have to report the death of Bing Dang Owl, Holy Fook, We Too Low.
From the entire Channel 4 News team, I'm Veronica Corningstone.
And I'm Ron Burgundy. Go fuck yourself, Sandy.
That's immediately what it reminded me of. When I saw that, I chuckled. I'm like, oh my God, that was his Ron Burgundy moment.
Yeah. President Ron Burgundy.
President Ron Burgundy, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, America. Go fuck yourself.
You know,
he might as well.
You know, if he did come out and say that, at least I would respect him a little bit.
At least it'd be honest.
You know? I'd be like, hey, you know, at least he said it.
Stop trying to cloud your animosity through hyperbole.
Yeah, right. Yep.
But yeah, that was pretty funny. It's like, you know, it makes me wonder if like somebody with ill intentions could sit there behind the teleprompter and just start dropping random punctuation.
Put whatever they want on the teleprompter, and he's just going to read it.
It's like put ellipses at some place, and it's like it's just a continuous thought that he never stops.
I wonder if we could throw in Nixon's resignation speech and see if he would notice.
Yeah.
Effective noon tomorrow.
Effective noon tomorrow. Yeah. I am not a crook.
Oh,
But-
that would be so good.
Or we could throw Reagan's Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
In there.
Mr. Gorbachev tear down that. Just
What we could do, that would be awesome if he was down at the southern border and they like threw in Reagan's speech. It's like, Mr. Speaker, tear his wall down.
he could do it. He could do it. So the context of that really doesn't matter.
No.
Because it was some speech about Roe versus Wade and abortion and how he's going to do he's going to sign an executive order. It really doesn't bother me too much, the executive order that he's going to write. I'll have to look it up. It was something about let me see if I can bring it up here. It was something about just making it so that states like Missouri was going to pass that law where if you leave the state to get an abortion, that you could be arrested for trying to leave this.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Yeah, that's bullshit. I don't agree with that. So I mean, if it's something like that, I have no problem with what he's doing.
Isn't there like interstate commerce or interstate laws that would protect a person in certain situations? Or
you would think that you have the right to freedom of travel, and we'll get to that amendment at some point. I believe that's part of the 14th.
Well, it's like I'm thinking of Delaware, for instance. Delaware has no or sales tax. I think Nebraska or Texas doesn't have state income tax. I think Nebraska is the other state that doesn't have sales tax, state sales tax.
Okay.
Anyways, long story short, you can drive down to Delaware and purchase anything you want except for a car. So cars, I think, are one of the only things that are excluded from sales tax that you can purchase. So you'd be subject to like sales tax on a vehicle if you went down to Delaware to purchase. But everything else, food items, dry goods, anything of that nature, you don't get hit with sales tax. So I'm just thinking, though, most states will cover your freedoms with regards to what they, the states allow, even if you're.
I mean, you're protected as far as that goes, and I would argue that any law that forbids you from traveling in any way,
that's wrong,
would be contested and immediately thrown out. I really don't think that there's any way that could come to fruition.
I know Missouri was like the first one to drop the hammer on stuff that extreme. I don't know if there were any others that did anything that extreme.
Mean, not to that extreme. There's let me see if before I put my foot in my mouth. States banning leaving the state for. Sorry that you can hear me typing.
You need to get a mechanical keyboard so everybody can hear it. Get a typewriter.
No state has currently, now this is as of June 27th, no state has currently banned out-of-state travel for abortion. Some legislation has been floated to ban out-of-state travels, but nothing has been passed yet in any state. It's estimated that 26 states are going to ban abortion without Roe versus Wade. But as of right now, there are actually no states that will prosecute women for leaving the state to get an abortion. And I would never agree with anything like that. I've been back and forth with a lot of libertarians about abortion. And it seems like the only contention that we really have as a country is whether or not, when you believe a person is a person.
Yeah.
That's the argument.
Well, it's always,
that's really the argument.
Yeah.
Because it seems like, that we're fighting for women's rights, and I completely agree. Everybody should have the right to do whatever they want, whenever they want. But my argument and my problem with abortion always has been, and I want to get past this because I don't want to have another abortion episode, but my opinion has always been that it should be everyone's right to bodily autonomy. But at what point are we trying to protect the rights of the person inside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That child will become a person. So that's what, again, I think we brought this up a lot of times on the last episode. What we need to do is we need to decide as a nation when that person becomes a person,
Yeah.
and when they have rights, because once they have rights, then they also have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah, I mean, the battle is always going to be an ideological one with regards, just like you said, it's going to be a battle as to when life is characterized or defined as having started.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think the more black and white discussion with regards to abortion and how states are taking approaches to it is with funding. When you get to the point, you know, there's always going to be an ideological gap or disparity between the two thoughts. And there's some blend in between because of course, we see that there's some states that are still going to hold to the idea that it should be available under certain circumstances.
Yes.
So it's not like banned in the sense that it's, you know, a crime. It's just they're banning certain forms of it, I guess is the better way to put it. But I think the bigger thing is that from a state perspective, with the use of income taxes, the use of state income, the use of municipal taxes, I think that to demand from a population that their tax money be utilized for state-funded anything, that's where it becomes a libertarian issue.
Yeah.
Because I think when it boils down to it, here's the thing. In a libertarian's point of view, you know, a pure libertarian doesn't give a crap what the person across the street does. They really don't in the grand scheme of things. As long as it doesn't in some way touch their money, their liberty,
and you
and
keep
their
your
health.
curtains closed.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, you know what I mean, though.
No, I'm absolutely I'm on board.
That's the pure libertarian viewpoint. The thing of it is that pure libertarianism can get a little chaotic.
It can.
It's
almost anarchy.
Yeah, you got to rope that in a little bit because, you know, you may say I'm wrong for believing this, but you know, I saw a picture of a woman who had a T-shirt made that said I had 26 abortions. It's like,
Yay.
you know what I mean? It's like, okay, that's your choice. I get that, but at the same time, it's like, you know, at one point do we start? It would be like me suddenly deciding that I want to shoot all the bald eagles.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm a libertarian. I believe I have the right to own guns, and I also believe that I have the right to shoot every bald eagle that has ever flown.
Yeah.
I think somebody would have a problem with me for doing that. Even libertarians and conservatives would have a problem with me.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean, though? It's like
because it goes down to the point again is that, you know, not to get too hippy dippy, but the eagles have rights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or bigger than that, you know, the rights of humankind should extend to what it takes care of. I mean, if you think of it in the perspective of stewardship, you know, we talk about, you know, the Greenpeacers and we talk about the you know, the whole climate change crowd and all that kind of stuff. We talk about that, but in the grand scheme of things, there's nothing wrong with wanting to take care of what's there.
No.
There's nothing wrong with wanting to make sure that we have forest 50 years down the road. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make sure that we have access to the same natural resources we have now 50 to 100 to however many years later. There's nothing wrong with wanting to, you know, try to make sure that the animal population has areas that it can live and thrive in. You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
There's nothing wrong with the idea of wanting to get away from use of oil. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get away from that. What the problem is that you basically get into this really liberal or really libertarian mindset on either end of the spectrum where it's complete anarchy regardless of which side of the spectrum you're on.
Yep.
So it's either complete anarchy with authoritarianism blended in somehow, or it's complete anarchy on the other end where there's no authority whatsoever. And if you don't have any authority whatsoever, then you have people, the level of people's rights to be trampled on just blows through the roof at that point. So there has to be a median. There has to be a median with regards to those two spectrums. So
no, I mean that's, you know, when going back to the environmental point, like there's environmentalism, which everyone should be on board with, because without a healthy environment, we're all gonna we're all done for.
What's the point?
But there's also what we see nowadays is, I believe they call it anti-humanism.
Yeah. Well, it's
environmentalism.
It's very nihilistic. Yeah.
And what they're saying is the whole reason why the environment is bad is entirely because of humans. And
well,
I can't disagree to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But I guess that to say that to get rid of human beings would most certainly cure the environment.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're part of the environment, so therefore we need conservation as much as anyone else, if that makes any sense. But I don't like the environmentalism where it's like, okay, to hell with any kind of prosperity, to hell with any kind of luxury. I don't want to say luxury. Luxury is not the word, but any kind of advancement or modernization is bad, and bad for the environment, and this, that, and the other. So therefore, we shouldn't have airplanes. We shouldn't have, we shouldn't grow cows for food. We shouldn't, all these things that are like anti-human, pro-environment. I'm pro-environment, but I don't want to be anti-human at the same time.
Exactly. And, if you want to get larger in the discussion, I always go back to Newton's, the fourth law? Is it the third or fourth law of thermodynamics that says that everything tends towards degeneration, which means that energy doesn't
dissipates.
It doesn't
naturally.
Well, it moves.
Yeah.
It doesn't. You can't destroy energy. They've established that energy is either kinetic or passive. The reason why I'm even stating this is that everything on this earth, or if you want to take a more solar look at things, everything in our solar system is slowing down. It's breaking down. It's tending towards degeneration. That is a known fact. Even with all our medical advances, people, they say, well, people are living longer. Yeah, they are, but there were still people that lived to be 70, 80, 90 years old.
Every decade or so, we get a couple of years in our life expectancy.
But what I'm getting at is that we know that things die. Mm-hmm. Whether we characterize dying as, a car turning into rust, or whether a body breaking down to the point where it just dies, or an animal dies, or, plant life dies, or whatever you want to throw into that mix. The point is that when you have the element of conscientious stewards added into that mix, that variable of a conscientious maintainer, then you have a people that can kind of hold back, to some degree, the inevitability of decay, the inevitability of death, the inevitability, and that's the thing, is that to take that approach, that nihilistic approach that mankind is a disease, which is essentially what they start to characterize people as.
You're not a mammal.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a virus.
Yeah, exactly. So if there's no value in humankind rising to the challenge of being able to solve some of the problems that exist in terms of this degenerative path that we're constantly on, if there's nobody in that mix, then we'll just, the animals will die eventually anyways. Well, the plant will die. The planet will die eventually anyway. You know what I mean? It's gonna die eventually. It's a natural
cycle of everything.
Yeah.
Everything decays and then dies and then is reborn some way or another. Now, you can debate the soul and this, that, and the other, but there is even a natural life cycle for humans. We're born, we die, we go into the earth, we're eaten by plants and worms and everything else. Those plants and worms are then eaten by birds and everything else. Then we eat the birds and all that stuff, and then it comes back. There's still a cycle to everything in this universe, and even stars will eventually burn out and die and then explode, and then that turns into more things. And so I guess what you're trying to say in a sense is that life finds a way.
Yeah.
No.
Thanks, Jeff Goldblum.
No, in all seriousness, no. Like everything has its season, and whether I think George Carlin said it, the planet's going to be just fine. We can't do anything to the planet. We're fucked.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the planet's going to be just fine. I think his quote was, "The planet will shake us off like a bad case of fleas."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it goes through its cycles. It goes through ice ages. It goes through there were periods where the Earth was nothing but lava, and then it was nothing but water, and then it rained for 4 million years or some crazy shit like that. And so you've got all of this stuff. This Earth has been through so much, and then human contribution to what the Earth has been through could fit in this little in the span of the life of the entire planet and the universe. We're this little fingernail, in the slice of everything that's going to go. So long after we're gone, the Earth is going to be fine, and maybe lizards or something will get their turn, and worms will rule. Whatever it is, cockroaches will be the only thing left.
They'll be the intelligent species.
They'll be the ruling class on this planet, and we'll be long gone. The Earth will be just fine and thriving, and it'll absorb the plastic.
Cockroaches are already thriving. They're called politicians.
And the Earth will absorb the plastic. All the plastic in the oceans will become part of the Earth, and just like if you've ever seen pictures of Chernobyl. Nowadays, where it's just like the Earth is just taken over. There's nothing there anymore. Like, and that's what will happen naturally. We'll just all be gone. What a heartwarming, encouraging, encouraging episode.
Hey everybody! Guess what? There's no light at the end of the tunnel. Have a good day.
Everybody's gonna die. We're all done. The universe has no meaning.
But in the grand scheme of things, mortality.
Sorry for the crack.
Yeah. We look at one of the things that we always try to achieve or work towards is perpetual everything. We try to work towards perpetual life, perpetual energy.
Yeah, Google's working.
Perpetual. We try to find means by which to create unaltering, unending, inexhaustible resources and lifespans and all that kind of stuff. But in the grand scheme of things, mortality is in one sense a good thing. It's a curse and a gift at the same time, because it gives people a sense of purpose, or at least it should.
It should.
To think that 90 years may seem like a long time for us, but in the grand scheme of things, that's nothing.
90 years is a second.
Yeah, exactly.
In Earth's life, it's a second.
Yep. But
So,
if you think about that, it's like you think about, I can't really do too much to affect the global current, so to speak. But in terms of how I live, my life, I can do things within the scope of what my universe is, so to speak.
The butterfly effect.
Yeah.
You do good things, and those.
And Ashton Kutcher pops up randomly, and you're punked. That's what happens in the butterfly effect.
you do good things, and those good things, the positive vibes ripple.
Yeah.
And then maybe somebody else will see that and do good things.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth.
How did we get on this? I don't know.
The universe is dying.
Yeah. But
and everything is going to end at some point.
So, yeah.
Yay.
So there's some more immediate stuff.
Yeah,
There's
more
been some
less cosmic.
James Caan died.
Yeah, I mean that's a little cosmic.
Yeah,
that sucks too. I always like
the
James
Star
Caan.
of Misery.
Yeah, the cock-a-doodle Star of Misery.
Yeah,
that was a great movie.
Yeah,
and we were just so many movies. Elf. He was in.
Yes.
He was in
Yep.
Elf, The Godfather.
Yep.
He was in so much, like so many movies I can think of right now, and he was always just so great in all the movies.
Well, just like Ray Liotta,
Yeah,
passing away. It's like all these great, like Emmy, Oscar level stars that are just, disappearing.
We're not going to have any good actors left.
No.
Here pretty soon.
Well, at least not ones that kind of set the bar.
Yeah, because nobody does anything edgy anymore. Like you couldn't make even something like Philadelphia. You couldn't make Philadelphia today.
Oh, with Tom Hanks.
With Tom Hanks. And because they would make it a circus.
Yeah.
It would have to be just rainbow flags and leather chaps through the whole fucking movie.
They'd have to pay homage to everybody.
Yeah, and
it's sort of like what was the recent story? The writer for Friends.
Yeah.
Did you see?
Had to apologize. Well, she didn't
like,
have to, but they did. They apologized for not having a more diverse cast.
Well, then she was like, I apologize for misgendering Chandler's dad. Who the hell cares?
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Actually, they should be praised. They should be praised because in the early 2000s and in the late 90s when that show aired, having a transgender parent was unheard of.
Yeah.
And that's why it was kind of funny because it
was out of the norm.
It was out of the norm.
Yeah.
So what they did is they made it mainstream.
Yeah.
And they don't get any credit for that. Just like Roseanne. Roseanne, I believe, had the first first female kiss on television.
Okay.
Was on Roseanne.
Okay.
Of all shows.
Yeah.
And she doesn't get credit for that because of what she said about somebody while she was on Zantac.
I don't remember
not
John.
Zantac, but
I don't remember John Goodman kissing anybody on that show. What episode was that?
It was the one that Ellen DeGeneres. No,
fair enough.
No, there was an episode though where Aunt Jackie decided that she was.
Oh, okay.
She was a lesbian, and Roseanne was groundbreaking, and then you had like Will and Grace.
Yeah,
and now
that was a pretty funny show.
Yeah, and by today's standards, that's like Frasier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So, I just like.
Well, it's like Bill Maher said: the left is never happy with how far we go. And that's what I started saying. It's like libertarians are never happy with how far you go, and neither is the far left.
Yeah, neither side is ever happy with where you go, and
you could be a liberal libertarian.
I just want to get to the point where everybody can just leave each other alone, and then that's when I'll be happy. When you can do your pink hair and whatever you want to do, it doesn't bother me. Do you, but don't judge me for wanting to wear my real tree camo and take my scary black guns out to the gun range.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, let me be me, and I'll let you be. If you don't like guns, don't buy guns.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go have an abortion. So we can both, just go our separate ways and be happy. That's
the thing is that, it's when the ideological part of it is that, one side or the other is always going to believe themselves more in the right. And here's the thing, and let me just preface this. I'm not stating that there isn't a right. I'm not stating that there isn't something that's considered truth, because that gets very obfuscated. I believe, me personally, I believe that there's central truth.
There are certain things that are truth.
I think there's things that are capital TRUTH, things that just are irrespective of who says what their
without opinion.
Yeah,
they just are.
They just are
Gravity
truth.
Is,
but
that's a good example.
That being said, though, I think that in the context of the United States, and we had this discussion a few weeks ago, in the context of how the United States was established, you can't have an ideological majority within the country. You can't. But you have to be respective of each other's viewpoints of
That's right.
it with regards to those majorities in order for things to, move forward. So it's just, it's like, the best way I can put it, it's like a marriage. You're going to have, they always say opposites attract. At least that's the standard.
For the most part, they do.
So, I mean, for a marriage to work, you have to understand each other's likes and dislikes, and you have to just move forward irrespective of what they are.
Yep.
And so
compromise.
So I mean, in that scope, the United States needs to be looked at as a grand marriage. Basically, we might want to kill the other spouse, but at the same time,
oh yeah,
you shouldn't.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like
there's no reason to hit a woman.
Yeah.
There's plenty of fucking reasons. You just don't do it.
Who was that?
Bill Burr.
Bill Burr. That's right.
There's plenty of reasons.
You just don't do it. I love his stuff. That
I can give you 9 off the top of my head right now.
That's why he's a popular, because he says it like
he just says it.
Well, it's one reason why I think Bill Maher really likes Jordan Peterson. Why they get along, because I remember one of the episodes, Jordan was actually a guest on his show.
Oh, really? That would have been great.
And Jordan made the statement is that the problem is, and he was talking because he's a child psychologist by trade, but his thing is that he was saying that people have to get over this thing of needing that there's an internal need for other people to love their children. It's like nobody needs to love your children except for you.
That's right.
And he said that, and Bill just about lost his shit on TV because he was like, you hit it right on the head. It's like we're tired of these parents that are just like overbearing to the point where my child could never do any wrong. My child's perfect. I know that they're a piece of shit at home, but you don't treat them that way when they're outside. You know what I mean? It's
I get you.
It's like,
I get you.
And Jordan was just in his intellectual fashion, just positing this statement. It's like, you don't have to love everybody else's children. You don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to treat them like they're special. It's like John Mulaney used to say, back in the 80s when kids weren't special.
Yeah.
It was right about that time when they started putting pictures of us on the back of milk cartons because they just realized that we were missing for 2 weeks or something to that effect. But
yeah, no, and that's really the way it was. I was just having a conversation with my son the other day, who's 12, and I remember being way younger than him. Like 6.
Yeah.
Just walking around the neighborhood. I mean, and by neighborhood, I don't mean like Jamaica, Queens.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
But around the block in our little suburban neighborhood of Hughesville, Pennsylvania, which is where I was at the time. And like at 8 years old, we would take off on our bikes and we had a bike path out in the woods that was just made by kids over the years, and we would go and we would ride the bike paths, and our parents had no idea where we were, whether we were even still breathing.
Yeah.
But they went about their day and did their thing, and then we would come back in when the street lights came on, and they didn't care.
I had about, it would vary from week to week, but I think I had about 10 or 15 kids from the neighborhood that I used to hang out with off and on, depending. Yep. There was one, my neighbor friend was the one I hung out with the most, but there was about 10 or 15 of us in various, because everybody lives so freaking close in the city. It's like when you say your friend across the way, it means 2 blocks over, like a 2-minute walk. But anyways, long story short, it's like some of the crap that we used to do. It's like I remember we used to play stickball or some variation of baseball in parking lots, because there were parks, but they were a long walk or a long bike ride, or you had to bug somebody to give you a ride basically to get to them. But anyways, we used to go over to the Catholic church, the rectory over there, and we used to play in the parking lot, and we used to hit balls up at the priest windows. Oh. And when the priest would come out screaming, we'd all run laughing down the street.
That's funny.
Other things I remember Easter, a whole bunch of us doing absolutely nothing, a bunch of corner hangers basically is what we were, but these random
riffraff.
Yeah, riffraff. We were riffraff. It felt like the West Side Story half the time. I started snapping and singing do. But these 2 guys walked up and they handed us a bag of Easter eggs. First, we were all, and see, here's the thing: we were street conscious. We were street smart. We knew we didn't live in the house all day long. We were out.
Exactly.
We were doing stuff,
learning,
but we knew what to look for. So we opened up this bag, and it looked like half of them had been rewrapped, and we looked at them, and there were like little holes in each of them.
Yeah.
So this was during the day and time when during Halloween you would tell your kids to check your candy for razor blades.
Yep.
So of course in our mind it was like, okay, we're checking it for like some kind of barbiturate or some kind of like narcotic that was been just, needled into these Easter eggs. So we pulled them out. The guys got like halfway down the block and we started screaming at them and running down the street after them and chucking the Easter eggs at the back of their heads. And they were screaming at us as we did this. And like, you effing kids. It may have been nothing. It may have been nothing, but in our minds, they did something to those Easter eggs and we were going to.
You guys were going to make them pay for it.
Yeah. So, but nothing major, nothing like crazy that, over the edge, but.
That's hilarious. No, that's a good story. That's
but
fun.
just to say, it's like, yeah, you were spending time out in the woods. I was spending time out in concrete. But
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying though, because where we grew up, there was like Main Street and then 2nd Street, 3rd Street, 4th Street, 5th Street, and then like most of my friends were on 2nd Street. But we had some friends and other neighborhood kids that were on 3rd and 4th Street, and then we would all meet up at the park or the baseball field. One of our things, I swear that we invented racquetball. I swear it, because we used to have this, and maybe I'm just ignorant and don't know the history of racquetball, but we used to have this bank parking lot in our neighborhood, and there was a big warehouse next to the bank. It was like a hardware store warehouse or something like that, where it just kept all the parts. Anyway, long story short, it had this big, long concrete wall, big, tall, long concrete wall on the east side of the parking lot. So we would get tennis rackets and tennis balls, and we would all stand in a line, and you would whip the ball at the wall and hit it as hard as you can at the wall, and then the next person would try to hit it, and you'd have like 10 or 12 kids like playing racquetball up against this wall and just trying not to kill each other, but whoever missed it would have to be the one that would have to run all the way to the other side of the parking lot to get the ball back, because if you missed it, it would just keep going forever and you'd have to go and run and get it. So the person that missed it would have to be the one to run and get the ball.
We played something similar to that, but it was more handball. But we actually called it something else that was a racial term, and I'm not going to repeat it on live on this TV on this program. But nonetheless, we used to play handball, and the goal was to not to hit where the corner of the building met the street. So there was like that little divot there, so it can't hit there, but you can hit up against the wall, but it couldn't do a second bounce or whatever the case be. And all you did is use your hands, and you used a little blue racquetball, basically. Okay. But we used to cut those in half then and play stickball, which was basically if you didn't have a full baseball field to play on, you took chalk and you marked off points on an opposing wall. So when you would hit it, it would represent first, second, third, fourth home run.
Oh, okay.
And that's how that was stickball, basically.
That's neat.
We were creative.
Yeah.
With the space that we had.
We didn't have enough kids, but we would always play baseball. We had a neighbor that had a big backyard, and we would always play baseball in the backyard. So
the holidays for us were when the roofing guys would start working on an opposing building, because then they would start throwing all the balls down that we've roofed since then. So we would have like a bag of balls and been sitting up there since God knows when. Tennis balls, racket balls, kick balls.
Yeah, kick balls, footballs, whatever got stuck up on the roof.
Oh
Frisbees.
Man, it was like Christmas. Like and they would love doing it. Like the roofing guys would be just like throwing them down and just having fun with it and everything. So we would have a bag by the end of the day full of them.
Times really have changed.
Yeah,
now.
They have.
Kids don't. It's a shame, and I'm not saying that all kids, because I'm sure there's kids out there in the cities and towns that are doing similar stuff, but most kids nowadays don't want to shut down their tablets and get out of the house long enough to do anything.
Yeah,
and it's a shame. It's a shame, because I had as far as the freedom and friends and stuff like that, I had a great upbringing. As far as being able to do whatever I wanted to do whenever I wanted to do it. And especially once I moved to Muncie, it was even a little bit different then, because I was more out in the country. Yeah. So now instead of, going to the bike trails or whatever, I was just out fishing and camping and stuff like that. So it was like never home.
part of it's that too is the access piece of it, because like I said, I mean, for me to get to a place where we had parks, like there was one within like 15 minutes of riding a bike from where I was.
Oh wow.
But it was never well maintained.
Yeah.
It was called the Lakes. It should have been called the place where you go to shoot up. But,
yeah.
The
rusty swings.
And it coincidentally is right across from the stadiums. Right across from, you would think they would invest a little bit more time and effort into that, being that, this is one of the first things you see when you come into town.
They didn't treat sports facilities the way that they do now.
No.
Like nowadays they buy up not only the land the stadium's on, but like all the blocks around the stadium.
Yep.
And then it's nothing but like restaurants and bars and parks and all that stuff now. But back then, the city was lucky to have a stadium. Like the cities didn't want to give up the land for the stadiums and stuff like that. And then nowadays they realize the tax profits and tax revenue that can come from these sports stadiums, so they're a little bit more lenient with it.
Well, the problem was too is that I always used to hear this. I actually considered it, but I always used to hear that there were very few cities that ever employed good city engineers.
Yeah,
like that was the biggest issue, is that they never had city engineers that could really
Philadelphia is living proof of that.
Well, yeah, I mean,
oh man.
Well, you have to imagine too, especially the older cities. Yeah, now, like newer towns that are becoming city-esque. There might be a little bit more of an opportunity there for them. Like I think of like Lancaster, for instance, in our state. Lancaster, was always like just straight farm country for the longest time.
It's Lancaster, not Lancaster.
Yeah, I know.
Trust me.
Yeah. You'll get
my Lord.
You'll get castrated for that.
Those people down there are insane. About their pronunciation.
Well, it's like I love Virginia. So you go down right below Harrisonburg, and there's a town that's spelled Staunton.
Staunton.
It's Stanton. And the reason why they called Stanton, it was a Civil War thing where they would know where you were from if you pronounced it wrong. So it was like a Civil War thing. They knew the North from South. Anyways, neither here nor there, but I'm just, we
don't take kindly your kind around here.
Yeah, basically. But
back the way you came.
But like Lancaster, I mean, you just go outside of it a little bit and immediately you have farmland. Sort of like how Williamsport is, the biggest little town in central PA, but you have just tons of farmland outside surrounding and hills. And, of course, we have the Allegheny Mountains not too far from here. And then we have, what's the other range? The Appalachians. So those two kind of intersect at some point, and then they break apart again, basically, as you go further south. But, it's just we have a lot of variety in terms of geography and topography up in this area. Whereas when you lived in a city that was basically 5 miles in circumference, to a kid, that's like an unending forest. You think about it, you can go in any which way. Now, granted, there were some areas that were considered parts of Philadelphia that were more, paid more attention to natural resources, like how they planned things out with parks and all that kind of thing. But when you got into the heart of like South Philly, Southwest Philly, North Philly, East Philly, we used to call Camden.
West Philadelphia.
Yeah, West Philadelphia. I mean, as you got further to the extremities of like West and North Philly, then you started to see more of like the suburban and more of the, trees and all that kind of stuff. But the city was like a concrete paradise. But, I use the word paradise lightly because it wasn't much of a paradise. But, y'all. I never saw.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
You know what? Keep my city out of your effing mouth.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Thanks, Will.
Let's rewind.
You haven't heard anything about him lately.
No, he kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
Kind of disappeared.
Figured that was going to happen
after he slapped Chris.
I guarantee you the next thing we see about him is that his wife is dead.
or they're getting a divorce or something along those lines. It's going to be something like that.
It's how it happens. It's how it always happens. But
absolutely.
Is there anything important that we need to talk about?
I really don't think there is. I think that we kind of took the time off for 4th of July and all that stuff. And now we're kind of back and just kind of getting back into the swing of things and whatnot. And have to get caught back up on the current events.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, there's always stuff going on, and that's the problem, is that there's never a lack of news. In the news, a Texas couple was prosecuted for feeding ducks. I just wanted to let everybody know.
Ducks?
Ducks, yeah. Apparently there was...
In Texas?
Yeah. I didn't read the entire story. It didn't seem interesting enough to really spend time going into it. I saw a blurb about that.
So in Texas, you can shoot the ducks.
Yeah.
Just don't feed them.
I'm sure it was probably some kind of weird, obscure municipal law.
Yeah, I know in... I don't know if you've ever... I'm sure you've been to New York City, but I don't know how much you know about New York City. Ducks are protected.
Oh, are
in
they?
New York City.
Okay.
So, like in the middle of Manhattan, they'll come off the East River, and it'll hold up rush hour traffic in the morning because a duck is crossing the street. It's absolutely illegal to hit a duck in New York City. The fine is outrageous. It's
That's
like
crazy.
$10,000 or something like that if you kill a duck. So on the I can't remember whether it's the east side. It's been a while since I've been there, but at any rate, you'll have traffic backed up for miles, rush hour traffic backed up for miles because the ducks are crossing the road. So you'll have all these cars that are sitting there waiting for ducks and stuff to cross the road because they can't. They have no choice. They have to wait for them, and sometimes they'll just stand there in the middle of the road and just stand there, and you can't. I think if I remember correctly, it's even illegal to disturb them. Like you're not even allowed to like shoo them across the road because they're protected or something like that. But at any rate, that's just a weird. So I'm sure it is some like obscure municipal thing where they're trying to protect the ducks. But in New York City, of all places, the busiest city in the world, you have to traffic that'll be stopped for sometimes an hour because ducks are crossing the road and you can't do anything about it. You just got to let them do their thing.
They should have like security guards that are trained in duck handling.
Yeah, so that maybe somebody from Fish and Wildlife can like shoo them in an unconfrontational kind of way so that it doesn't trigger the ducks.
It's like when I was driving back from your cabin the one afternoon, there was a freaking goose in the middle of the road coming down, and he just stood there and looked at me. And then he walked around to the passenger side, stuck his head up, and looked right in the passenger side window at me, like, "Go fuck yourself, dude."
Hey, who are you?
Yeah, he literally just went and just looked and just looked in the window and just like looking in at me. It's like he had the bravado of like some of the Italian guys I knew growing up down in Florida. He was like giving me the teeth and the arm and the flip off. Yeah, and he was like, "Geez,
hey, what are you doing here? I'm walking here.
That's what I felt. I felt like this goose just flew in from New York State, and it was just
we have a little bit of courtesy on this block. What are you doing?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that goose had some bravado.
Yeah,
but
one other thing while we're on the topic of fowl, public service announcement to those in Pennsylvania: free range chickens doesn't mean you can let them run around in the fucking road. I'm sick and tired of driving down these back roads in Pennsylvania having to swerve chickens because you don't have a fence and don't want to cage your chickens. You can have a fence and they're still free range. Just putting that out.
I've seen a lot of pheasant running around lately.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a game commission thing.
Yeah. I've seen, well, I at least saw like 2 or 3 or 4 sets. I almost ran over a turkey coming out.
Gooble, gooble.
Yeah, I was going up. I've been going on a lot of hikes up at one of the parks up here. But anyways, just coming down out of nowhere, just a bunch of turkeys come running out. And they don't give a shit.
No, they don't care. They don't care about nothing, them turkeys. Them turkeys are...
Why isn't they never had a sports team named the Turkeys, even though it almost became the national bird?
It was almost the national bird, and it was almost the Pennsylvania bird too. Ben Franklin lost twice.
Think about it. It would have been the Philadelphia Turkeys, not the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
But the word turkey for some reason has become
the turkey at one point. Turkeys are pretty crazy resilient birds.
They don't
like you can shoot them, and shotgun pellets will just bounce off their feathers and stuff like that. Like you have to shoot them in a certain.
Oh, and then they have those crazy spurs on the back of their
spurs on the back of their feet. Like,
dude, they're like the cowboys of the bird world.
They are. They're crazy birds. So I get where Ben Franklin.
And they can fly, by the way.
But they're goofy.
Yeah,
they're goofy birds.
Well, it's like that one that family member of mine raised. Did I show you those?
You told me about it, and you showed me the pictures.
Basically, this bird absolutely hated flannel or camo. So whenever you would put camo on, it immediately, and it wasn't hunted. It was never hunted.
It's in its DNA,
raised.
man.
Yeah, it was in its DNA. So somehow that bird just had an instinctual reaction to camo, where if you put it on, and he actually he chased after. Like he would chase after people. Like the dog was even afraid of this bird. He was big.
They get big.
Yeah, I mean he was no joke.
We had one when we got to the cabin on Thursday this year. When we got up to the cabin, there was one in the yard that probably stood about that tall.
A full gobbler.
Yeah, he could have definitely looked in the window without having to stretch. He could have just looked.
They just
over.
don't care.
No.
I mean they've got some bravado.
Yeah, they're smart birds though.
Yeah,
people don't give them enough credit. Turkeys are pretty smart. They're one of the hardest, at least as far as game in Pennsylvania is concerned. They're one of the hardest things to hunt, just because their eyesight is so good and their hearing is impeccable. So especially their eyesight. Their eyesight is something where if you even flinch just a little bit, they'll pick up on it and they'll be gone. So a lot of times you'll see deer and turkey hanging out together because the deer's eyesight isn't quite as good as what the turkey's is. So the deer will hang around with the turkeys because if the turkeys fuck off, then the deer are going to be like, oh shit, something's going down, and they'll.
I wonder if evolution took a left turn if we were, had the little dangly things from the
dangly
bottom.
Stuff.
Like what would social protocol look like? In those situations. It's
Some people do have that thing. Then
would it be akin to a biker having a mohawk? Or something like that.
Something like that.
If that was still a thing, even though it's not the 80s anymore.
Man, shaving would be a pain in the ass.
Can you imagine those Gillette razors?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody that ever wondered why I have a beard, it's not a fashion statement; it's a laziness.
Yeah,
it honestly is. I cannot stand shaving. I hate it. I hate the feeling of that scratchy.
Yeah.
So I just let it go. Pure laziness, folks. That's all it is.
My problem is this doesn't ever grow in fully, so I usually just
you get the patchiness.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to get that, honestly, but since I started growing it out, I have a glorious beard. It's a little whiter than it used to be, but I have a glorious beard when I let it grow out.
That's what happens with life. The white comes along.
So anyway.
Yeah. Well, this was a wholly productive. I don't have my sunglasses.
You can find us at facebook.com/PA Between the Lines. You can find us on Twitter at the BTL Podcast. You can find us on our website, thebtlpodcast.com.
I want to get a sax just so I can learn that riff, so that way I can play it live.
Epic sax
guy. Dude. Anybody who's never watched the Police Academy is missing a lot.
I know, in order to get that reference, you have to watch the Police Academy series in its entirety. All of them. They're all wonderful. With that being said, we'll probably be back. Well, we'll definitely be back next week, but we'll probably be doing a Fourth Amendment
Yeah.
Maybe a Fifth Amendment, Fourth Amendment combo. But I think the Fourth Amendment, there's at least enough in there to get at least a half hour, 45-minute episode out of that. So we'll probably do that next week. So at least for now, I hope that everyone can kind of calm down a little bit.
Enjoy the summer.
Enjoy the summer. Stop with all the rioting and all of the, sometimes things happen that we all don't like, but it doesn't mean you have to burn down a city every time you don't get your way.
It gets expensive after a while.
It does, and it's not good for anybody. So just keep your eyes down the road, and keep an ear open for the future, because it's not always going to be like this. We can think things will always get better. So until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
Have a great week.
Bye.